We interrupt this program to bring you the latest in stuff Asian Aryan people like. The Next Level Arcade in Brooklyn, New York. This is the place where like-minded Asians and Asian Aryans will hang out to play fighter games and delve into the long-lost legend of the arcade scene and cyberpunk culture. Well, it's mostly Asians, and mostly they are Chinese. But there is strong evidence that this is definitely an Asian Aryan place. Now, originally, there was an arcade in Chinatown area of New York called the Chinatown Fair. There's an excellent documentary called The Lost Arcade, which you can find online about this spirit, and I suggest you should watch that film before any of the claims I make and you don't believe them. That film, The Lost Arcade, is definitely something to look forward to in the Asian Aryan spirit. Now, at Next Level Arcade, I've always been a fan of anime and manga, and when I have the chance after long days of homework, I do like to play video games. I only have time for one video game at a time. And the game I've been playing since I was a freshman in the Geeky Video Game Club, well, actually there was a fighting game club, and this fighting game club would play only Street Fighter, King of Fighters, BlazBlue, Guilty Gear, other fringe Neo Geo games, and basically it would be a bunch of like-minded Asians and Asian Aryans, and they huddle around this TV. They bring in these expensive joysticks from arcadeshock.com, and then everyone learns the methods and ways of the buttons, and it's fun. And I was swooped up into the whole King of Fighters scene a few years ago, and it's still lingering with me, even though I don't have time anymore. So going with our friends, it's a refreshing spirit to go play arcade games in a place in New York City which is dedicated to that spirit. Now, if you've ever been in a gaming tournament, it pretty much works like rounds where everyone's seated right next to each other. You play a fighting game which you are acquainted with, and then you fight. Now, King of Fighters is completely an opposite to Street Fighter, which white people are more aware of. Whites know Street Fighter as this international racial stereotype characters, and they're all fighting against this evil fascist dictator named Bison. So King of Fighters is not like that at all, as it's more rooted in Japanese culture, and there's tons more characters. You make a team of 3, and you draft that team of 3, and you fight each other, and each of these characters are based and somehow grounded in Japanese culture. So comparing it to Capcom, who makes Street Fighter, is more international and globalist, while King of Fighters, made by SNK, is more nationalist and about Japanese interest. Hence why it's not well known, but it has a cult following in the American states, especially around Asian communities, as they would prefer it more than Street Fighter, which is funny. It's interesting in this scene is that you might think it's pretty much all Chinese, which it is, but, however, most of them speak good English, and some of them don't even know they're Chinese. And, well, this arcade is actually quite home to the white male Asian female coupling. I mean, I'll see it all the time with brown skin Asian girlfriends and even Asian male white female. There's that Hapa mix in there too, and it's just so abundant when you'll walk into this arcade. You know, not to say it belongs to one culture, but it's definitely a congregation of Asian Americans and whites who have sympathy with Asian Americans, and they create now this hodgepodge Americana culture that exists playing arcade games. As by the way, you're playing these video games where you look at this Japanese figure and you assume the role of it learning these button commands. In King of Fighters, there's a character named Terry Bogard. He's supposed to be a white American, but he only say a few English words. And there's sometimes that silly Japanese character that's supposedly American, but she's supposedly half Japanese, but more Japanese. And you know how the Japanese create stuffs like this. But the people are nice. The people are kind of interested in their own little culture. They all live around the New York system, and they have their way. And it's a great place to make connections and see good old friends. And so, what else is there too after Next Level Arcade? It opens earlier on. I've only been to once, there's another Sweppel place called Babycastles. Now, Babycastles is more white dominated. It's also assumes to be an arcade gathering place. However, Babycastles is less about next level in the interest of playing King of Fighters, but these stream artsy fartsy avant-garde video games that white people do in their Columbia Ivy League art schools, and they congregate together. Now, not now at Babycastles. If you just look up online of this, I think Vice did an article on this, but Babycastles is going to be overwhelmingly white male, Asian female. Although it's on its white side, I think there's some subtle influences in Babycastles to make it Asian Aryan. Some nights I remember being in a Friday night one time a year ago, and sometimes it's literally just all white males and their Asian females all meeting together and saying, "Oh, hey, Robert, this is Yingling. I met her at art school. Oh, yeah, this is Stacy. I've met her." And so it's this kind of funny, uh, another congregation of white male, Asian females, but more eccentric on the white identity. While Next Level is more based around the aftermath of the China Fair arcade scene, and they're meeting here, and they have more emphasis on the Chinese. I think both places, Next Level and Babycastles, is going somewhere. However, Babycastles is too white, and Next Level being a little too Asian, Chinese. However, I do think there is this meddling between this new Asian Aryan race, and I think Next Level Arcade does a better job at this than Babycastles. At Next Level, you'll have these angry Mishima types leashing out their anger through a fighting game, while at Babycastles, you have this elitist Columbia art school graduate being a snob. But I really think Next Level is pretty much for the working class Asian Aryan, and Babycastles the elitist, and Next Level being more on the Asian side. Hey, at least they're bringing their dark skinned Asian girlfriends there. Everything works out, right? And so I strongly advocate and support to sometimes, if you're in Brooklyn, take a visit to the Next Level Arcade and play some video games. Learn about the fighting game community, because it is a borderline Asian Aryan community. It is one step of half there between the Asian Aryan ideal. And even though they would probably be shocked to hear such a perverted notion of Asian Aryanism and rather say Asian American, but it's happening. It's slowly happening, Asian Aryan, and I'm trying to plant the seeds for that. So it's there. It's interesting. I mean, if you're a white nationalist, when is there a chance for you to go see a Death in June concert and then see Death in June in person? I mean, I do believe Greg Johnson has a article on Countercurrents about his going to a Death in June concert and seeing a white male, Asian female there. But not to digress or anything, still, these little congregations can support a cultural background that will happen. And I strongly advocate the Next Level Arcade as an ideal Asian Aryan ethno state.